Have you ever promised yourself that tomorrow will be different, only to hit snooze again and again? Alex Miller had, more times than he could count. At 16, Alex was smart, creative, and full of potential, but he had a problem: laziness. Every night, he would lie in bed, phone dimly glowing, whispering to himself, "Tomorrow, I'll get up early. I'll finally fix everything." And every morning, when the alarm blared with an annoying, high-pitched buzz, he would hit snooze, then hit snooze again. By the time he rolled out of bed, showered, and dressed, the world was already moving faster than he could keep up. School was waiting, homework was piling up, and his responsibilities felt like an avalanche he could never escape. "Man, why'd I even try?" Alex muttered one Thursday morning, shoving his backpack over his shoulder as he rushed out the door. His mom called from the kitchen. "Alex, breakfast." He waved without turning. His stomach grumbled, but he was already late. He had skipped breakfast again, and the guilt gnawed at him, as predictable as his constant tardiness. It wasn't that Alex didn't care. He cared a lot. He wanted to be better. He wanted to feel in control, to stop living in a haze of procrastination and regret. But desire wasn't enough. Every night, he told himself the same thing, only to fail again the next morning. The breaking point came after another missed assignment, this time a science project that could have earned him extra credit. He stared at his empty desk, blinking at the blinking cursor of a blank Word document. His friend Jake had already submitted weeks ago. Even his little sister, 12-year-old Emma, managed to finish her chores and homework on time, leaving Alex feeling embarrassed and defeated. That night, at 2 a.m., Alex sat on his bed, shoulders slumped, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow I'll do it," he whispered again, his voice barely audible. "I'll get up early. I'll fix my life. I swear." He pressed his palms to his face. Frustrated, he didn't know what fixing his life even looked like anymore. And yet, in that quiet, heavy silence, a thought struck him. Not the thought that he would try tomorrow. Not the empty promises, but something more real. He realized that nothing would ever change if he didn't take control of something. Even just one small part of his day. The next morning came too soon. Alex's alarm rang at 5 a.m., not the usual blaring chaos, but a soft sunrise light that slowly brightened his room. He groaned and buried his face in his pillow. "I can't. I'm too tired." Every muscle in his body protested. Every instinct screamed to go back to sleep. But something inside him, that tiny flicker of determination from last night, nudged him forward. Slowly, painfully, he swung his legs over the side of the bed. "All right," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "Let's just try this, one day at a time." He walked to the kitchen and poured a glass of cold water. The first sip shocked him awake, ice cold running down his throat. His body tingled, his mind cleared, and for the first time in a long while, he felt in control. A small victory, maybe, but a victory nonetheless. Next, he tried movement. No gym, no hour-long workout, just 10 minutes of stretching and a few push-ups. Then he stepped outside. The neighborhood was quiet. The streets glimmered with dew, the sun barely peeking over the horizon. The air smelled fresh, crisp, full of possibility. Alex walked slowly, deliberately, taking in the sounds of the morning, distant birds, a car rumbling in the distance, the faint rustle of leaves. With each step, he felt his muscles loosen, his heart rate stabilize, and a strange, liberating energy surged through him. For the first time in years, Alex wasn't rushing. He wasn't reacting to life. He was moving intentionally. And for the first time, he realized that maybe, just maybe, change was possible. Back in his room, he picked up his notebook. It wasn't fancy, just a simple spiral notebook. But it became sacred. He wrote down 3 things. One thing he was grateful for, how he felt right then, and one thing he wanted to focus on that day. The words felt heavier than any homework assignment he'd ever written. They were real. They reminded him that he wasn't a passenger in his own life. He could steer, even if just a little, each day. And as the sun finally rose, filling his room with golden light, Alex felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. A fragile, trembling hope, but hope nonetheless. He didn't know what the next morning would bring, or the morning after that, but he knew that he had taken the first step. One small decision: waking up early, was already starting to make him feel unstoppable. The next morning, Alex's alarm rang again at 5 a.m. This time, the soft glow of the sunrise clock felt like a gentle nudge rather than a shock. He stretched, swung his legs over the side of the bed, and took a deep breath. His muscles were still sore from the previous morning's movements, and his eyelids begged for more sleep. But he had made a choice, and choices had consequences. Today, he reminded himself, he was not going to surrender to laziness. "Okay, let's do this," he muttered, walking to the kitchen. The cold glass of water hit his lips, and he immediately felt alert. The lemon slice floating in the water was a sharp, zesty wake-up call. He closed his eyes and savored the quiet of the house. No notifications, no background noise, just the hum of the refrigerator and the first birds of the morning. It was peaceful. Movement came next. Alex decided to push himself slightly further today. 10 minutes of yoga stretched his stiff muscles. But then he added a few sprints along the quiet neighborhood streets. With each stride, he felt energy build, not just in his body, but in his mind. His thoughts, usually scattered and noisy, seemed to organize themselves. He noticed the crunch of gravel under his sneakers, the rhythmic sound of his breath, and even the smell of wet grass after the morning dew. For the first time, the world felt alive and welcoming rather than overwhelming and hostile. After jogging, he paused on the curb and let the sun wash over him. There were only a few cars, a neighbor walking their dog, and the distant chirping of sparrows. Alex closed his eyes and inhaled deeply, realizing that no one else's chaos could touch him in these first hours. This time belonged entirely to him. Back in his room, Alex sat cross-legged on the floor with his notebook. Writing had become a kind of ritual, a way to cement the control he was building over his mornings. Today he wrote, "Gratitude for quiet mornings. Feelings, energized but still nervous. Focus, finish math homework. Read 2 chapters of the novel. Plan for the science project." As he wrote, he realized something startling. In the past, he had spent hours scrolling through social media, reacting to notifications, letting other people dictate his attention. Now, by taking even just 30 minutes for himself, he felt grounded, clear, and ready. He had started to reclaim his own mind. Next came personal development. Alex picked up the biography of a famous entrepreneur he had been meaning to read for months. He hadn't expected to get much out of reading, but within minutes, he felt inspired. The person in the book had overcome failure after failure, starting small, persisting despite resistance, and eventually achieving remarkable success. The parallels to his own struggle were impossible to ignore. Some mornings, Alex replaced reading with hobbies. He tried sketching his favorite characters from a video game he loved or practicing basic guitar chords. Each small accomplishment built momentum. Even the tiniest progress felt monumental. He realized that growth wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up consistently and dedicating time to improve. However, slowly. Breakfast came around 6:30 a.m. He prepared scrambled eggs with spinach and tomatoes, a slice of whole grain toast, and a smoothie with banana and berries. Eating slowly, he noticed the difference that proper nutrition made. His energy didn't spike and crash like it used to after sugary snacks. His mind was alert, and he felt ready to tackle tasks that previously seemed insurmountable. After breakfast, Alex reviewed his planner. Normally, this step would have been overwhelming. His calendar often looked like a battlefield of assignments, deadlines, and extracurricular obligations, but now, he approached it differently. He prioritized tasks by importance, identifying the one thing that would make today a success. Other tasks could wait. He visualized himself handling each item efficiently, calmly, and confidently. Closing his eyes for 30 seconds, he pictured walking into class without stress, presenting his science project confidently, and completing homework without procrastination. This visualization set the tone for the day. Of course, not every morning went perfectly. There were times he overslept, felt groggy, or simply didn't want to do anything. On those days, Alex reminded himself that consistency didn't mean perfection. He adapted. He laid out his clothes the night before, placed his phone across the room, and created a simple checklist of the morning routine to follow. Even light music from his phone helped lift his mood when motivation was low. By the end of the week, The changes were subtle but noticeable. Alex felt more awake, more confident, and more in control. His teachers commented on his focus in class. Homework was submitted on time. Even small interactions with friends felt easier. He wasn't drained by internal chaos anymore. Most importantly, Alex felt a shift inside himself. The morning routine had created space in his mind, allowing him to think, plan, and act rather than react. For the first time, he understood that the way he started his day determined how he would navigate the rest of it. Mornings were no longer a battle, they were an opportunity. And yet, Alex knew that the journey had just begun. The first week was just the foundation. Each morning was a choice, a challenge, and a step toward building a life that reflected who he wanted to be rather than who he had been. He wasn't just waking up early, he was learning to live intentionally. Weeks passed, and the changes in Alex Miller were undeniable. The boy who had once struggled to get out of bed before 7:30 a.m., who had skipped assignments and let procrastination rule his life, was becoming someone new. Every morning at 5 a.m., Alex claimed a small but powerful piece of time for himself, time to move, reflect, learn, and plan. And with each passing day, the boy who had whispered empty promises to himself at 2 a.m. grew more disciplined, confident, and unstoppable. School life began to shift. Alex found himself completing homework on time, participating more in class, and even arriving early for practice. His teachers noticed the difference. "Alex, you've been so focused lately," his math teacher commented one afternoon. Alex smiled, shrugging, but inside, he felt proud. This focus wasn't forced, it came naturally. The result of small, consistent actions he had taken every morning before anyone else was awake. Friends started noticing too. "How are you so productive all the time?" Jake asked one Saturday, watching Alex carefully organize his notes for the science project. Alex didn't give a lecture or a long explanation. He just smiled and said, "I just take control of my mornings." That's it. Simple words, but they carried the weight of a profound truth. Even at home, the atmosphere changed. Alex had always felt pressure and tension from unfinished chores, arguments over responsibility, and the stress of trying to keep up with life. Now, with his mornings grounded in intention, he approached tasks calmly. Laundry, dishes, and even helping Emma with her homework were no longer overwhelming chores. They were opportunities to contribute without feeling drained. The internal transformation was even more remarkable. Alex began to notice that he could handle stress and setbacks with ease. When a difficult math assignment came up, he didn't panic. When a group project didn't go as planned, he didn't lash out or give up. Instead, he paused, reflected, and acted. Meditation and journaling had taught him the power of creating space between thought and action. He had learned that he didn't need to react immediately to every challenge. Instead, he could respond thoughtfully and intentionally. As weeks turned into months, Alex saw that the changes were not just physical or mental, they were deeply emotional. He felt proud of his consistency, confident in his abilities, and capable of achieving goals that had once seemed impossible. The world was no longer a blur moving past him. He had slowed down enough to navigate it deliberately, without panic, without feeling like he was constantly behind. One crisp Saturday morning, Alex walked outside for his usual jog, the sun just rising and painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. He breathed deeply, feeling the crisp air fill his lungs. For a moment, he paused, smiling to himself. He remembered those early nights at 2 a.m., whispering promises that had felt empty. Now, he realized, he had finally kept a promise to himself. And in keeping it, he had found a rhythm, a strength, and a focus he had never known. This is just the beginning, he thought. I can take on challenges, pursue dreams, and finally be in charge of my life. The lessons were clear. Alex learned that laziness and procrastination are not fixed traits. They are habits that can be changed. Discipline doesn't come from motivation alone. It comes from creating systems that support consistent action. And the early morning, before the world demands your attention, is a sacred time for growth, reflection, and preparation. He also learned that transformation is gradual. It's built day by day, step by step, choice by choice. One 5 a.m. wake up doesn't change everything, but doing it repeatedly, with intention and focus, can change everything. It's about progress, not perfection. And most importantly, Alex discovered that the power to change your life lies in your own hands. The alarm clock, the notebook, the quiet morning, they are tools. The real change comes from showing up, even when it's hard, and consistently choosing yourself over comfort, excuses, or distraction. As he returned from his run and sipped a smoothie, Alex felt a quiet satisfaction. The boy who had struggled with laziness was now unstoppable, not because life had changed, but because he had changed. He smiled, knowing that every morning he continued this practice was another day building the life he wanted, rather than reacting to the one he had been given. Lesson for the viewer. If there's one thing to take away from Alex's journey, it's this: transformation begins with a choice, sometimes a small one. Waking up earlier, moving your body, reflecting on your day, learning something new, and planning intentionally can create momentum that changes your life. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Start small, start consistent, and take control of your mornings, and you'll be amazed at how unstoppable you can become. Thank you so much for watching this story all the way through. If you found Alex's journey inspiring, leave a comment below. What small change will you make tomorrow morning? And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos that can help you take control of your life, one step at a time. Remember, every day is a chance to choose yourself, and every morning is a new opportunity to become unstoppable.